Mr. West has produced a YouTube video in an attempt to debunk the conclusions of the latest South Coast observation. Unfortunately, Mr. West hasn't been telling the truth again. He has been dishonest and telling porky pies in order to deceive people. This video will present the sideshow tricks employed by Mr. West to trick his gullible subscribers. The observation was viewing from Worthing to Beachy Head Cliffs, a distance of 44.2 kilometers or 27.4 miles. At 27.4 miles or 44.2 kilometers, the white cliffs of the west side of Beachy Head can be observed with the eye or an optical device. The Bell Tout Lighthouse. Mr. West has been very cunning indeed. His deception is very neat and well crafted. But when logic and deduction are applied, the truth is revealed, and his nature and intentions exposed. The deception. In his video, Mr. West is going to attempt to trick anyone gullible enough into thinking that they aren't observing the west side white cliffs of Beachy Head at point A, as shown below. The white cliffs of the west side of Beachy Head, represented by point A, are 27.4 miles, 44.2 kilometers away from the observer. These white cliffs in the photograph below are what are pictured at point A above. But Mr. West is going to try and trick you into believing it is this. I know you are thinking, but there are no visible white cliffs in the blue box at the elevation the picture was taken. Don't worry, Mr. West's desperate sideshow tricks will make one appear there. The white cliffs of the west side of Beachy Head, represented by point A, are 27.4 miles, 44.2 kilometers away from the observer. These cliffs are what are pictured at point A, but Mr. West is going to try and trick you into believing it is this. I appreciate that it is ridiculous, but we will go through with Mr. West's desperate sideshow tricks anyway. The previous picture is an overlay of two screenshots taken from the YouTube video linked here. The deception. Mr. West's deception consists of three parts. Part 1, image manipulation. Part 2, height misrepresentation. And Part 3, inappropriate overlaying of his manipulated images. Deception Part 1. For all intents and purposes, it looks like the Google Earth Pro image used in his video is a genuine unmanipulated image. Who would even consider it had been manipulated? This is what I get on Google Earth Pro. No manipulation of the image. A real photograph. Here is the link. Please note the shape of the paths. Screenshot from Mr. West's video. The arc of that path isn't visible in the real photograph. This is what I get on Google Earth Pro with no manipulation. This is what Mr. West presents. Both images are at an eye altitude, of 148 meters. Please use Google Earth Pro and see which one you get. Mr. West's image from Google Earth Pro has been manipulated. The upward and downward elevations of the land have been exaggerated and/or tilted, and the horizontal and vertical aspect ratios appear to have been manipulated. Again, both at the eye altitude of 148 meters. Please use Google Earth Pro and see which one you get. Mr. West has been manipulating his images, compressing, exaggerating elevation, tilting, stretching. Why wouldn't Mr. West state his manipulations? Why would he try to hide the truth? Mr. West's manipulated image. On the right, the link for the photograph from the video. From the drone photograph displayed above, you can clearly see that at the elevation of the drone, you cannot see Mr. West's elevation height manipulated rear white cliff. It is patently obvious that the rear white cliff that Mr. West made visible in his manipulated image is not visible in real life. Mr. West's deception has been exposed. Let's not forget, in the observation that was done, the camera was only 3.5 meters above tide level and at a distance of 27.4 miles, 44.2 kilometers from Beachy Head. Mr. West has purposely manipulated his image. He has attempted to deceive his subscribers and has been exposed. Have a go at changing the number and see what happens to the terrain. It's very interesting. Mr. West, you are a proven liar. Mr. West's manipulated image and real life. Deception Part 1. The liar has been exposed for the first time. There is no need to go further, as Mr. West has proven to be dishonest and untrustworthy. But let's see where Mr. West goes next. Why would Mr. West manipulate the Google Earth Pro image in such a way? The upward and downward elevations of the land have been exaggerated, and the horizontal and vertical aspect ratio appear to have been manipulated in order to make the rear cliff in the red square visible, so it can be used for the next part of his next deception. Deception Part 2. Mr. West's manipulated image. Mr. West has purposely manipulated his image to achieve a raised rear white cliff that he will say is the white cliff seen in the video. Mr. West is stating that the white cliff seen in the video footage labeled A below is the elevated and tilted, manipulated rear white cliff in his Google Earth Pro image that the red arrow is pointing at. Mr. West is stating that his elevation and tilted, manipulated rear white cliff is above the level of the white cliffs as illustrated below and is what is actually seen in the observation. Stills from the video. Pictures of real life, not manipulated images from Google Earth Pro. Seaford Head, the Seven Sisters, Beachy Head, White Cliff. The color, brightness, saturation, and temperature have been enhanced in the bottom. Seaford Head, 86 meters above mean sea level, and Beachy Head, White Cliff. Again, the color, brightness, saturation, and temperature have been enhanced in the photo below, with Seaford Head, 86 meters above mean sea level, and Beachy Head, White Cliff. Mr. West's elevation manipulated cliff is 106 meters above mean sea level. The observed west white cliff of Beachy Head is obviously, definitely not 106 meters above mean sea level, unless you are either mathematically challenged, lying, or both. The Seven Sisters, and the line of sight from Worthing Sailing Club, with Beachy Head on the very right. Just so full information is available from the camera at Worthing Sailing Club. Seaford Head is 38 kilometers, 23.6 miles away. Beachy Head is 44.2 kilometers, 27.4 miles away. The white west cliffs of Beachy Head are 4 miles further away from the observer compared to Seaford Head cliffs, so the white west cliffs of Beachy Head will be visually smaller due to perspective, but their elevation is lower than 86 meters above mean sea level as illustrated below, unless you are suffering from impaired judgment. Deception Part 2. The liar has been exposed for a second time. Now, Deception Part 3. Mr. West now attempts to deceive his subscribers by overlaying the two manipulated images. Mr. West takes this video still and cuts out a section and changes it to this. No mention of what image manipulation has occurred. The real image, no change to aspect ratio. Color, brightness, saturation, and temperature enhanced. This image taken from Mr. West's webpage has been manipulated. Now Mr. West has two manipulated images. What is he going to do with them? Mr. West takes his purposefully manipulated first image and then the manipulated still from the video image and places the video still on top of his elevated manipulated image. Why is Mr. West attempting to overlay two images taken from two very different distances? Image from Google Earth Pro, not more than a couple of kilometers away from the camera. An image from a video still taken from 27.4 miles, 44.2 kilometers with a zoom camera. Mr. West is totally ignoring perspective. Mr. West throws all rationality and logic to the wind to get his final deception to work, hoping that you won't notice. And he lines up the two manipulated images using the top of the land as a quote-unquote guide. Any honest person would line up the inferior mirage mirror line of the video still with the water level on the Google Earth Pro image to achieve the best match possible. It would not be an accurate match whatsoever, but it would be considered a fair attempt. But Mr. West doesn't do that because otherwise his deception would not work. So what does he do? Mr. West ignores perspective and appropriate positioning and overlays the two manipulated images. And hey, presto! Oh my, a perfect match. Mr. West only had to manipulate two images and ignore perspective and appropriate positioning to deceive his unsuspecting subscribers. Deception Part 3. The liar has been exposed for a third time. Perspective not accounted for. Positioning not appropriate. The deception has been exposed for the sad attempt it was. The fact that Mr. West has been demonstrated to be a liar, again, his failed efforts have only served to reinforce the conclusion that we do not live on a globe. Mr. West would like to reluctantly apologize for his behavior and his attempt to deceive his subscribers. He will do it again because he just can't help himself, so be on the lookout. Would Mr. West care for a second attempt, or will we be dealt a very large helping of word salad as he fails to obfuscate his way out of his lies? Would anyone like an attempt? I am waiting. And now I know about image manipulation.